All right. So we are going to pick up where we left off on chapter 3. These last two, this first one, we're going to talk about costing out a standardized recipe. Okay. And then we're going to kind of combine that with figuring out how much we should charge for something. And then we're going to end class with costing out another recipe. Okay. So on your notes page, um, everyone go ahead and write this AP to recipe. AP to recipe. So this is a kind of a diagram that I've created probably about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago at this point, to help students kind of keep their numbers all together. I will say as we start working towards our project, the students that are the most successful with the project are the ones who use this AP or some kind of system to keep their numbers straight. The students that I see that struggle come to me with a notebook full of pages of numbers and they have no idea how to explain it to me. So if they can't explain it to me and they wrote it, how am I supposed to be able to decipher it and figure out where I can help them? So by using this AP to recipe is something that has been really helpful. And actually, I just had a thought that popped into my head. All right, so we're going to work this out together. So I would recommend you follow along in your notes page. But then I will also post this as a completed notes page after class is done. Okay. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at trying to figure out what the cost of one breakfast plate is going to be. Okay. And so as you are looking at this information, you want to look through and kind of figure out what exactly are the ingredients that go into a breakfast plate. Okay. So each breakfast plate served with 2 eggs, hash browns, 2 slices of toast, 2 strips of bacon, or 2 sausage links. And we sell it for $6.75. Okay. And so what we first want to do as we're setting this up, we want to go ahead and just list all of our ingredients: eggs, hash browns, toast, and bacon sausage. Okay. Then, now that we have all of our ingredients, okay, now we can start costing them out. So when we do AP to recipe, the AP is our as purchased. How much did we purchase? So if we look at our problem, how many eggs did we purchase? 30 dozen for $38. So $38 per 30 dozen. Okay. And then my recipe is how much? Two what? 2 eggs. Okay. So now looking at this, do my units match on both sides?
No.
No, they do not. We have eggs on one side. We have as purchased on the other. We have dozen on the as purchased side. So now we have to do some kind of conversion. How do we get down to the cost of 1 egg? How do we get to the cost of 1 egg?
Divide a dozen by 12.
Okay, so we know that there's 12 eggs in a dozen. Yes. Okay. So we are going to be dividing at some point. Do we divide by 12 right now? Do we divide 38 by 12 right now?
Or by 6 to get 2 eggs. Oh, I'm sorry, never mind.
You're on a similar right track. I'll show you why in just a second. But let's stick with this train of thought right now. Do I divide 38 by 12? Or what do I divide 38 by to get the cost for 1 egg?
The amount of the case?
Okay, so how much is in the case?
30 dozen. Okay,
So we have 30 dozen, right? So we could divide by 30 dozen. And if we do that, let's go ahead and do that. What is our math? 38 divided by 30 is $1.26 repeating, right? How many eggs are in a dozen?
12.
Okay, we can't quite do this because we're still in the cost of one dozen, $1.20, basically 27 cents per dozen. Our units don't match yet. And so now we have to divide by 12 eggs.
And then
Okay.
multiply by 2.
And now we divide that, we get $1.27 divided by 12 eggs is basically 11 cents. So you see how we get 0.105? Since we're talking about dollars and cents, we're talking about money, we're going to round this up to the nearest penny. So round it up to 11 cents. So this is going to cost me 11 cents per egg. Do my units match now? They do. So since I had the cost of one egg, now I can just simply multiply by 2. Okay? And so my cost of my eggs is how much?
22 cents.
22 cents. Okay? So that's the cost of my eggs right there. I'm going to show you another way that we can do this as well. So if I have my, let me choose a different color, undo that. Let's go green. So if I have $38 per 30 dozen, and I need 2 eggs, okay? How many eggs are in 30 dozen? 360 eggs, right? So by multiplying 30 times 12, that gives me 360 eggs. By dividing that $38 by 360 eggs, I'm automatically going to get my cost per egg. You see what I did there? So when we divide $38 divided by 360 eggs, we get 11 cents per egg. Okay,
Shortcut.
does that make sense?
Yes, chef.
Okay, so it doesn't matter to me which way you do it, as long as you have it all nice and neatly laid out. Now, one thing that's really important to note is your units. If you don't put your units on there, I don't know what those numbers mean. Okay. And that's also where students get hung up because they'll stop. I divided by 30. So my answer is $1.27. So I'm going to multiply by 2. But our units don't match. Okay. Units have to match. Questions, comments, concerns?
Not at the moment.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and do our eggs, hash browns, toast, and then bacon or sausage. And I'm going to do 22 cents for my eggs. Okay, cool. Let's do hash browns. Erase this so I don't get confused. I like to, as I go through here, I like to change colors. So if you have like a blue pen or a black pen, I like to change them so that way it kind of keeps them separated. AP to recipe, we always start with the AP to recipe. I like to draw that line pretty long because it allows you a lot of space to go in between, okay? So our hash browns, okay, so we got the eggs already. A case of 50 potatoes is $47. And where does our say of our hash browns? It doesn't say what our hash browns are. Huh. Our hash browns are half of a potato. So half of a potato. I need to change that. All right, and so it is $47 for a case of 50 potatoes. All right, first question is what? Do our units match? Do our units match? Potatoes, potatoes? Yeah, that's awesome. Which means now we just have to get down to the cost of one potato. So how do we do that?
47 for 50?
Yep. So $47 divided by 50 potatoes. When we do that, 47 divided by 50, my cost is 94 cents per potato. And then how do I find the price of half of a potato?
Divided by 2.
Okay, we can either divide by 2 or we can multiply by 0.5. It's the same thing. Okay,
47.
so 47 cents is the cost of our hash browns. All right, let's go to our toast. AP to recipe. A loaf of bread is 24 slices and it costs $1.86. And we've got 2 slices of toast for our recipe. So 2 slices. And it was $1.86 per 24 slices. Do our units match? Thumbs up for yes, thumbs down for no. Do our units match?
Slices.
Yes, they do. So now our next step is to get down to the cost of 1 unit. So how do we decide from $1.86 for 24 slices? What's the cost of 1 slice of bread?
186 divided by 24.
Exactly. 186 divided by 24 slices. And that's going to equal all right, so everyone take a look at this. This is 0.0775. We're dealing with dollars and cents. So what does this actually round up to? Up to what? 8 cents, exactly. And now if we need 2 slices, comes out to 16 cents. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and add up these 3 items. Why? Why just these 3 items?
Because every plate's gonna have those 3.
Because why?
Because every plate's gonna have those 3 in them.
Exactly. They're the same on every plate. The only difference is the choice between bacon or sausage, right? And so as I'm going through here, I'm going to add these up and get what? That's 13, 14, 15. Carry the 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 85 cents. Do we agree? Someone double check my math for me on a calculator. Okay. So now I can just add 85 cents to the cost of my bacon and 85 cents to the cost of my sausage. I don't have to type in those 3 numbers over and over and over again. Okay. Just something to save you some time. All right, let's do bacon first. AP to recipe. Okay. Our bacon, we know it's 2 strips of bacon and there's 12 strips per pound and costs $3.85 per pound. Okay. So we have $3.85 per pound and we need 2 strips. Okay. Do our units match? No, pound and strips, they don't match. But just like you know that there's 8 ounces in a pound, or sorry, 8 ounces in a cup, 16 ounces in a pound, just like you know that conversion, I have given you this conversion of 12 strips per pound. So now we can come down here and we can change this to 12 strips. And now our units do match. Okay. So when we divide $3.85 divided by 12, check this out. We get 0.3208. Okay. Everybody put your pencils down for a minute, eyes up here. Focus on me. Because we are dealing with money, okay? Because we are dealing with money, it does not matter what this third number is or fourth number is, okay? I know that normal rounding rules says that we keep it at 32, okay? But because we're talking about money, this 0.8, that represents a part of a penny. And those, just like we talked about how those lemons, the cost of those lemons add up, the parts of those pennies are going to add up. If you're a breakfast restaurant and all you're selling is bacon and sausage, that 0.8 of a penny is going to round up, is going to add up over time. So to account for that, we're going to automatically make this 33 cents. Okay? The only time you leave it alone is when you get exactly 2 decimal places. That's it. Anytime else in my class, if you have 3 or 4 or more decimal places when we're talking about money, you always round up to the nearest penny. Okay? And so now 33 cents each times 2 is equal to 66 cents. Okay? So that's one of the biggest things that students get hung up on is that rounding up to the nearest penny. Okay? And when I say the nearest penny, I mean the 2 decimal places. Okay? So let's add that to our cost up here. Bacon is 66 cents. So our plate, 85 cents plus 66. Our bacon plate costs how much?
151.
$1.51 to make that bacon plate. Okay, 66 cents is the cost of the bacon, the protein, and 85 cents is the cost of the eggs, the the hash browns, and the toast. Okay,
And for brunch, you could sell that for 20 bucks.
depending on your location, absolutely. Now let's talk about sausage. This is the last piece of the puzzle. Okay, so we start with AP to recipe. Sausage is 20 links of $2.85 per pound. And we're going for 2 links. Okay. And then we know based on the conversions that 1 pound is equal to 20 links. So we divide this by 20. $2.85 divided by 20. So what is this going to be per link? This comes out to 0.1425. So what is that when we talk about dollars and cents? Say it again. 15 cents, right? We look at this, there's three or more decimals. We're gonna look at this second number and we're gonna round up to the nearest penny. So that's 15 cents per link. And then we times by 2 and we get 30 cents. So that's my sausage plate is 30 cents. Let's go up to the top. Sausage is 30 cents plus 85 cents. So $1.15 versus $1.51. Let's zoom in so we can see that a little bit more. Okay, so bacon is $1.51. Sausage is $1.15. Okay. So when we're selling this, we sell them for the same price, $6.75, right? So we would usually, what we'll do is we're gonna price this based on the higher cost item. So we were gonna sell the item, sell the plate, we're gonna base it on the higher cost of $1.51. Because that way, if everybody orders bacon, well, then at least our costs are covered, right? But for every time somebody orders sausage instead of bacon, we get just a little bit more profit. Okay, it's not a whole lot, but it's a little bit more. Okay, this prevents you from having two different prices on your menu for a plate with sausage or a plate with bacon, right? It's just a lot easier to keep it all one price. Same thing whenever when you're talking about like a barbecue plate that has your choice of sides. Usually the choice of sides, if it's like mac and cheese, I don't know, greens, green beans, what coleslaw, right? You're gonna price that plate based on probably the mac and cheese. That's the most expensive side. And then if somebody orders coleslaw, well then bonus, we're gonna get a little bit extra profit because that coleslaw doesn't cost as much as the mac and cheese does to make.
Or like
Right.
with cigarettes, it's the same price for hundreds and regulars.
Okay.
So they make more off of the regular.
All right. So any questions about costing out a recipe? You are going to get plenty of practice because your project has, I think, 12 or 13 recipes, and some of them are anywhere from 5 to 15 ingredients. So you're going to get plenty of practice with your project that we'll introduce in 2 weeks, a week and a half. Okay. But the biggest thing is start with this AP to recipe. It allows you to have that visual of where I'm starting. My 30 dozen eggs cost $38, but I only need the cost of 2 eggs. So it gives you that visual of where you start and where you need to finish. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns? All right. The next one that I want to go over is in the PowerPoint. And I was going to print these out for y'all. Give me one moment. Let me take a look and see where. That's okay. It's all written down. So with 100%, 120% food cost on these cupcakes, one of two things is probably the problem. Maybe we're not selling it enough. We might need to increase our price, right? The other thing is that maybe we might want to change our ingredients, okay? Maybe it's cheaper for me to make my own cupcake rather than to buy a pre-made cupcake. Yeah, these are $60.48 for 30 cupcakes.
I briefly worked at a cupcake place
Uh-huh.
and it was like a gourmet cupcake place,
Yeah.
but literally she had Duncan Hines boxes in the kitchen.
Yeah. That's okay. I mean, as long as you're making it, not maybe then maybe because I mean the way that I look at cake mixes is it's just your dry ingredients already mixed together. You just have to add the wet ingredients to it. So I'm okay with people using cake mixes. Um, the other thing to think about is that these could be what we call a loss leader. Okay. Some places have what we call a loss leader. It gets people in the door, right? The same thing with the rotisserie chicken at Sam's and Costco. It's less than $5 for a whole rotisserie chicken, okay? But as you walk back to get that rotisserie chicken, are you walking in and getting just that rotisserie chicken and walking out? Chances are you're probably going to stop and get some other things, right? So, same thing with these cupcakes. If these cupcakes, we're selling them for $17 roughly for 30 cupcakes, chances are I'm probably not just going to walk in and get cupcakes only and walk out. Maybe this visit I did, which I didn't because I spent a whole bunch of money on snacks. But the thing about the average person, if they're going to get cupcakes, maybe they're also going in to get plates for the party. Maybe they're trying to get some maybe barbecue, so they're going to get the meat and all the sides for the party or whatever they're celebrating. So these lost leaders get people in the door and then they spend more money on the other ingredients, the other things, right? I hate to say this because it's not always true, and don't tell Chef De La Fuente and Chef De Real and Chef Woodard I said this, okay? But this is the reason why you often get offered complimentary dessert when something goes wrong at a restaurant. Because that steak probably cost me, as a restaurateur, that steak probably cost me anywhere from $25 to $30, okay? That piece of cheesecake probably only cost me $2 to $3, maybe $4 at the most. And so I'd rather give somebody free dessert that only cost me $3 or $4 in expenses than comp off a steak that costs $20 or $30 in expenses. Right. So that's why oftentimes we give dessert as a guest service recovery. Because it allows us to maintain our food cost and still the guest is getting a piece of cheesecake that's on our menu for $9 or $10 or $12. So they think they're getting $9 or $10, $12 worth. But in reality, we are only taking the hit on the cost of that cheesecake, not the selling price of that cheesecake. So just keep that in mind. All right. Questions, comments, concerns? All right. All right. I will record this tonight during my night class. Okay. There is also, I'll post this notes page completed like this. I'll post it on Canvas as well, all filled in. But there's also in the chapter 3 quiz, there is a separate brisket math description and video you can follow as well. Okay. So you have multiple resources. All right, so then in the last 5 or 10 minutes of class, let's look at questions number 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so 5 and 6 are basically they go along with each other, and then 7 and 8 is essentially just doing 5 and 6 over again with different numbers. Okay, so we're going to start with the equation. Okay, number of guests times the serving size. The number of guests times the serving size. Okay. That gives us our edible portion. In this case, it's going to be in ounces. Now, what I like to do right now in this step is apply the yield percentage, because otherwise students forget to do the yield percentage. So if we're using our triangle, EP, AP, and percentage, if we are looking for the amount to order, we cover that up, and we're going to divide this by the yield factor percentage. And that gives us our AP in ounces. Now, do I call up Cisco and say, hey, I need 4,000 ounces of brisket? No. How do we order meat?
Pound.
By the pound. So now this is where we have to divide by 16 ounces to get our as purchased in pounds. Okay? So you see, it's very much step by step by step. Okay? So how many guests are we wanting?
250.
250 guests. And they get 6 ounces each. And that is equal to
1,500.
1,500 ounces. And we divide that by that same 0.55. And we get 2,727.27 repeating ounces.
27, 27, 27.
Okay? Now we have to divide that, divide by 16 ounces. We get 170.45 pounds. So in order for me to feed 250 people, I need to order 170.45 pounds. Imagine just for a moment, if you haven't taken Mr. Yaminsky's class and you don't know about yield factor percentage, and you just say, I have 250 people, they're going to eat 6 ounces, that's 1,500 ounces. Divide by 16 ounces, I'm going to order 93.75 pounds. Okay. If I only order 93.75 pounds, and then I apply that yield factor. No, I don't apply the, yeah, I apply the yield factor of 0.55. I'm only going to end up with 51 pounds of brisket left. Is that going to be enough to feed 200 people? No. So that's why that yield factor is so crucial. Okay, that is why the yield factor is so crucial. So now, what is the total cost of the briskets for the party? This one is relatively straightforward. So we're going to take the cost, the AP, cost per pound, and we're going to multiply it by the total weight. So what we say it was $2.50 per pound. We're going to multiply it by 170.45 pounds. If you want to, just in your notes, if you want to circle this 170 and draw an arrow to right there, so that way it reminds you that's where we get that number, the total weight. So my brisket is going to cost me $400, $426.13. Okay. You think, wow, that's a lot of money for brisket, $426. Well, it's even be even more now
Yeah,
with
it's like
the
double.
prices going up. But even then, at $426, that's how much it's cost me to make, right? But I'm selling 250 servings at $16.95 each. That's $4,237 in sales that I'm getting. And then I'm going to pay for that $426 out of that sales. Okay. All right. So he wants to make sure there's enough brisket in case there are extra guests. He plans to order enough brisket for a 10% overage. Okay. So how many pounds of brisket will he need? Well, if we have 250 times 0.10, that's 25 extra guests. So now we just repeat. What's 275 guests times 6 ounces? $16.50 ounces. Remember, we want to apply that yield percentage. And that gives me 3,000 ounces. And then I want to divide by 16 to get my as purchased in pounds. So 187.5 pounds. Okay. £187.5. Now you could have just taken 170.45 and multiplied by added 10% to that. You could have, okay? But this way gives you extra practice in the steps of costing out, going from the number of guests, okay? So 187, and then how much will it cost to buy the briskets for the party, including the overage? So again, we just go back and we do the 187.5 pounds times $2.50. It's $468.75. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? There is a math problem just like this on the end of your chapter 3 quiz. Okay. After your chapter 3 quiz is due and turned in, okay? So next week on Monday, somebody remind me about the brisket calculator that I created in Excel. And I'll show you how you can just type in all the numbers and it gives you all the answers. And I'll post that on campus for you.
Specifically
so
for
you can
brisket?
use it. Well, it's a calculator that I created. Yeah,
Nice.
it's the calculator I created for this particular assignment. All right, so make sure you get a cupcake on your way out. Please don't leave me with a whole lot.
We turn these in.
No, that's just for your notes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all online. Perfect attendance today. Thank you all so much.